One contained a white talcum powdery-like substance.
And potentially deadly form of anthrax.
And to see images of Wuhan locked up and people standing in queues in hazmat suits, students not getting what they wanted.
Biological weapons are any of a wide variety of disease-causing organisms, such as bacteria, viruses, fungus, or other biological agents that have the potential to be used as weapons against humans, animals, or plants. Usually, they have two parts, a weaponized agent and a way to deliver it. The leaders of almost 180 nations came together in 1972 to create the Biological Weapons Convention, which prohibited the creation, manufacture, and stockpiling of an entire category of weapons of mass destruction. This treaty came into effect in 1973. The danger posed by bioweapons, however, has not been successfully contained by the agreement. Weaponized agent. Biological weapons can be made from things like bacteria, viruses, fungi, prions, or toxins that come from animals, plants, or microorganisms, or similar substances that are made in a lab. The natural state of the agents can be changed to make them better for mass production, storage, and distribution as weapons. In the past, people have tried to make biological weapons like aflatoxin, anthrax, botulinum toxin, foot and mouth disease, glanders, plague, Q fever, rice blast, ricin, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, smallpox, and tularemia. Delivery mechanism. There are many different ways to deliver biological weapons. In past programs, biological weapons were put on missiles, bombs, hand grenades, and rockets. Several programs also made spray tanks that could be put on planes, cars, trucks, and boats. There are also records of people trying to make sprays, brushes, and injection systems, as well as ways to contaminate food and clothing that could be used to carry out assassinations or sabotage. Biological weapons can be used for more than just strategic or tactical military purposes. They can also be used to kill politicians, infect livestock or agricultural products to cause food shortages and economic loss, cause environmental disasters, and spread disease, fear, and mistrust among the public. Pathogens that cause disease are everywhere in nature. The technologies needed to control them are getting easier to get. People with bad intentions, like individuals or terrorist groups, could use these technologies and naturally occurring pathogens to make weapons. For instance, CRISPR, a gene editing technology, reduces the costs and time needed to manipulate pathogen genomes. The current international accords are ill-prepared to handle these new difficulties. There have also been times when non-state actors started things. The Japanese cult Aum Shinrikyo tried and failed to use bioweapons before turning to the chemical weapon called sarin gas.
Commuters stumbled into the open air, gasping for breath. Emergency medical teams swarmed into the area.
This is the deadliest terror attack carried out on Japanese soil.
The radical religious group Aum Shinrikyo was founded in Japan in the 1980s and grew quickly in the 1990s. In 1994, members of Aum Shinrikyo used sarin as a chemical weapon to poison about 500 civilians in Matsumoto City. In 2001, members of Congress and media outlets in the United States received letters containing anthrax, a lethal bacteria of military grade. The act of bioterrorism resulted in the deaths of 5 persons and the infection of 17 others. Gene editing tools like zinc finger nucleases, transcription activator like effector nucleases, and CRISPR can change 2 of the most important things about bioweapons. Firstly, as science progresses, biological agents could stop being unpredictable and unreliable and become weapons that are reliable and can be aimed, especially by states. And secondly, the spread of scientific knowledge could make both states and people outside of states more likely to try out bioweapons. This choice could be especially appealing to non-state actors if the international controls on conventional weapons and explosives get tighter. Small, remote-controlled planes like drones give attackers the chance to launch standoff attacks and spread pathogens in the air. Is India ready to defend itself against bioterrorism? COVID-19 has shown how deep the fault lines are. Not just in India, but in the US and Europe as well. The European Union's failure to prevent and deal with crises has been both slow and ineffective. On the other hand, the United States had time to get ready for this. Yet, in a country with the best healthcare system in the world and well-known epidemiologists, these first weeks were wasted. Dr. Francis Boyle is a professor of international law at the University of Illinois College of Law, who drafted the Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act of 1989, which was passed unanimously by both houses of the U.S. Congress and signed into law by President George H.W. Bush. Dr. Francis Boyle said that the coronavirus outbreak in China and the biosafety level 4 laboratory where he thinks the virus came from show that the virus is an offensive biological warfare weapon or a dual-use biowarfare weapons agent with a gain-of-function properties. This is why the Chinese government tried to hide it at first and has taken drastic steps to stop it. However, scientists all over the world say that there is no proof that the COVID-19 virus is a biological weapon. They think that people got the COVID-19 virus from animals. So, whether it's a biological weapon or not, a similar pandemic or biological attack against India or any other country will be devastating. For India, it could cause a lot of damage because of its geographical position, large population, and limited awareness of biosecurity. Most biological warfare agents don't cause symptoms for many hours or days. This means that Indians who were exposed to a contagious biological warfare agent could easily spread it to thousands of other people before they started to feel sick. India, like any other country, faces 3 major biological threats: infections that happen naturally in humans, animals, or crops. Infections caused by the accidental release of pathogens into the environment. And possible outbreaks caused by the deliberate weaponization of dangerous pathogens that affect humans, animals, or crops. Either one of these threats on its own, or all of them together, will force India to improve its ability to find them and deal with them. Pakistan has been a breeding ground for terrorism for decades. Numerous terrorist organizations designated by the United Nations function openly within Pakistan. There have been reports of ties between elements of the Pakistani government and military and certain militant organizations, especially those operating in the contested region of Kashmir. Some experts believe that this support includes financial, logistical, and intelligence assistance, as well as legal immunity. Nevertheless, it is also true that Pakistan has been a victim of terrorism, with numerous attacks on civilians, religious minorities, and security forces. The majority of these attacks have been claimed by domestic terrorist organizations. So, if a singular cult that used chemical attacks in Japan can cause such devastation, imagine the harm these groups in Pakistan could inflict, not only in India, but throughout the globe if they obtain biological weapons. So, how India can protect itself from a biological attack launched from Pakistan. India's top priority should be to upgrade its early warning systems for biological attacks. Early warning systems for biological weapons detect, track, and react to possible biological threats before they cause harm. Biowarfare early warning devices include disease monitoring systems. These systems track contagious disease trends, including new or re-emerging diseases, and may signal a biological strike. Environmental tracking systems. These systems spot biological agents in water or soil samples and help pinpoint exposure sources. Sentinel animal surveillance. These systems watch cattle and wildlife for contagious diseases or odd death trends, which can indicate a biological threat. Border monitoring systems. Sensors, scanners, and other technologies detect and record biological agents or similar materials at ports of entry, airports, and other border passages. Biosurveillance networks. These systems monitor contagious diseases, bioterrorism, and other public health crises using social media, news stories, and medical records. Laboratory-based surveillance. Diagnostic tests detect and trace contagious diseases, including those caused by biological agents, and can help spot bioterrorism events. India has made investments in its public health system and has a number of rules and regulations that direct readiness for reaction to naturally occurring disease epidemics. However, India's response to avian influenza, Nipah viral illness, and COVID-19 has highlighted the need for improvement in the nation's public health system. India has made detailed biosafety guidelines to make sure that biotechnological research is safe. There are already establishments like the National Institute of Epidemiology in Chennai, the National Center for Disease Control in New Delhi, the Center for Infectious Disease Research in Bengaluru, and the National Institute of Virology in Pune. However, India needs to make a virus database with genomic data as soon as possible. This will help a lot with making tests and vaccines for these diseases, which will help control them early and stop them from spreading. When dealing with pandemics like COVID-19, it will be very important to act quickly, and bioinformatics will be a key part of this. India does not have a formal biosecurity law or policy against threats coming from intentional sources, but it does have a variety of policies that handle dangers from a variety of sources. A terrorist group with considerable territory under its control can develop and deploy these deadly weapons within a short period of time. One solution in this direction may be to establish a full-time office of biological threat preparation and response under the National Disaster Management Authority. This office may develop into the focal point for bringing together specialists from other ministries, business leaders, and members of the academic and scientific communities. India should collaborate with organizations like the Defense Department, the Home Ministry, and research facilities to create a contingency plan to guard against such occurrences. Despite the fact that India created a National Institute for Disaster Management in 2003, it has no concrete plans for preventing and countering bioterrorism. With cutting-edge equipment, ideally under the control of the Home Ministry, the Ministry of Science and Technology, or the Ministry of Defense, is the first line of defense in order to quickly and accurately diagnose all the agents. In 2013, a biosafety Level 4 facility was established in Pune, and a second lab is now being built in Gujarat. For India to be more effective in preventing biowarfare, more of these laboratories are required.